Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting tutorial on this Cambridge A-Level IT paper 4 March 2021. In this paper we are going to look at task 1 and task 2, which is mainly graphic design. So let's dive right in to the question. Task 1, it says recolor and save a copy of the world map PNG file as world map _color _ your name, etc., as highlighted in the example here. And this is the provided world map, and we are supposed to recolor it to get this outcome. Next, in task 1, we are going to use the world map colored image to recreate a logo called Tawara Global Deliveries. So it says we should not use wrapping tools that may be available in our application, and we have a graphical representation of how our answer should look like, and we are supposed to save it in a scalable vector graphics format as global logo. And as usual, I'm going to use the example they gave to save my work. So let's dive right into Photoshop to get the first task done. So here in Photoshop, I've already opened my world map, and we are going to do some recoloring. So first of all, we are going to deal with the background, which is the sea. So to do that, we are going to add another layer to what we've been provided with. So for this first layer, we can rename it to map. So to rename, you double click the layer and type. So I'm going to add a new layer by clicking on this plus sign here, and then I'm going to rename it as C. Next, I'm going to use the fill tool, or the shortcut for it, to fill the C layer. Now I need to interchange the layer positions. The C must be beneath the maps, so I'm going to drag it below it. And I'm going to go into my foreground palette here, foreground and background palette color, and I'm going to select light blue. It's already on light blue, and then I'll just say OK. So the shortcut for the fill is Shift and backspace, and then we make sure the content is on foreground. If it's on content aware or etc., make sure it's on foreground, and then click OK. So we have our sea already colored. Now we have some portions within the land that need to be colored as well. Those are indicated by the white patches within the continents. So we need to zoom in on them and use a selection tool to cut those sections out. So we go to our layer section, select the map, and then we can zoom in by repeatedly pressing Ctrl and the plus sign. So let's deal with this first, and I'm going to take my quick selection tool, and I'm going to resize it. I think this is too big for this area, so I'm going to resize it. Right now it's on 9. I'm going to resize it to, let's say, 3, and then I'm going to click within the area just to make that selection. Okay, so when you are satisfied with what you have, all you need to do is press the delete key, and then it takes that portion off for you. You can do the same for the other areas. Let me try using the magic wand. Let's see if that one will. Okay, that one gives me a better selection, so I just delete Then we look for the next portion and then keep deleting all the white patches. We don't need them. Yes, here. Let me press Ctrl and plus to come back to a normal size. Okay, so we don't have any visible white patches anymore. And now I think we can save our work. So I'm going to pick the name that was provided. World map color. I'm going to copy it quickly for example's sake. And then we save our work as recolor and save a copy of. Okay, so I think we are still going to save it as a PNG file. So file, save as PNG, change the name, then click OK. Then we are good to go with the first part of the task. So we're going to quickly go into the second part, which says we should reproduce this logo as shown here. So we are going to go into a vector software known as Adobe Illustrator to get this done. Okay, so we are right here in Adobe Illustrator, and as you can see, I have already opened the world map underscore color file that we have created. So we need to carefully look at the logo that we are supposed to recreate and then replicate it in our vector editing software. So to begin with, I'm going to pick the ellipse tool and draw a circle. The circle can be any color for now, but I'm going to change the color of the circle to the blue, the light blue showing in the C here. So I'm going to pick the eyedropper tool here, or L, and then click on the C so that my circle changes to the color of the C. Next, I'm going to reposition the circle behind the map. So I'm going to right click and select arrange, and I'll say send to back. Now when I click away, it gives us an idea of how our logo is going to look like. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to resize it a bit. So when I resize it, you look at the outline here, you see that South America is fully in there. So we have parts of Russia and Asia out of the view, and then we have parts of North America as well. So I'm going to resize this side a little bit, like this. And I think we are good to go. So now with this as our background, we are going to replicate another circle. So I'm going to select, I've selected the circle. You go to edit, copy, select copy, go to edit once again, and then you say paste in front. So it replicates another ellipse. When you want to see them, you can go to our layers panel here, drop this arrow down, and then you see our first ellipse and then the second one. Now we need to place one in front of the map. So in the layers panel here, you drag and place one in front of the image. So we have it showing like this. Next, we select the image, hold down shift and select the ellipse on top as well. So next thing you do is you right click and then you say make clipping mask. So it gives you a globe with your continents on it. Now let's go back to the question paper and have a look. Right, so we have our globe, let's say our continents shaping up. Our continent logo, we have our continent logo shaping up, or global logo, right? So let's go back into Illustrator and get the banner and the text done. And we can see an outline around the globe, which we need to add as well. So to add the outline, we can come back to our layers panel and select the ellipse, the one we used for the clipping mask showing here. Select it, and then in the properties panel you see that you have the fill and then the outline striked out. So we come down here and select the stroke here, double click on this and ensure that the color is on black and click OK. Now the color by default tends to white first, so we have to double click again and this time change it to black. So when we look around it, we have our outline as well. The logo seems to be tilted a little bit, so let's use our selection tool, select everything, and let's bring the cursor to one of the corners, and when you see the curved arrows, we tilt our logo a little bit to give it that angle, not too much, just as it looks on the question paper. Okay, so we are done with the globe, and now let's deal with the banner. So I'm going to select everything and shift it to the left a little bit. Better still, to keep our thing intact, we can right click and group everything. And to draw the banners, I'm going to use the ellipse tool to draw an oval like this, and then I'm going to replicate that oval. But first of all, I'm going to give it a color. So I'm going to click on the fill here, give it any color for now. Going to go into edit, copy, edit, paste in front. So I have a duplicate. I'm going to place this somewhere around this portion, and then I'm going to select, drag and select both. And I'm going to reposition this a little further down, select both again, and then I'll have a look at how my banner will look like down here. Next, I'll pick the shape builder tool. Per default it's on positive plus, so I need to change it to negative because I need to take some shapes off, especially these two. So I'll press on Alt and draw across. Now we have the front part of our banner, and we need to replicate the back or the reverse side. So we right click on it, transform, and go to reflect. Next, we make sure our horizontal axis reflection is selected, and then we click, make sure the preview is also showing so that you see how it's going to look like, and then you press copy. So you have two versions. So I'm going to bring this one down a little bit and make sure this is in front. So I right click on it and go to arrange and bring to front. Next thing I'm going to do is change the gradient or the color of the banner. So I'm going to pick my gradient tool on my right here. First of all, I can click on the default so that we can have the default color, and then let me bring this here so that we have a look at how it goes. And I'm going to select the gradient version that we've just selected here, and then go to the slider, and I'm going to double click on it, and then make sure I change this slider to dark red from the RGB spectrum. So you have dark red here. I use the eyedropper tool to select that. Next, I can add another slider here. So we double click once again, the spectrum comes up, and then we select a lighter red version. And when you look at the question, you realize that the far left side of the banner is actually white. So we're going to leave that one as that. And let me ensure that this red is a bit darker. So to do that, we can change on the RGB slider itself. We can change the red a little bit, slide it to the left to give you a darker shade of red. You can make changes to this as well just by double clicking on it and then making changes to the slider. So you can either use the slider or pick the color from the spectrum. Light red. Yeah, I think this is okay. So we have a dark red, light red, and then somehow white on the left. Let me go back in and then shift the sliders a little bit so that the white is not so dominant. So we slide this one to our right. So we are done with this gradient. Now the back version also has a replication of this gradient. So let's have a look at how it looks in the question paper and come back. Now in the question paper, I realized that the gradient, the red is not so dark, and the light red is somewhere in the middle, and then we have white dominantly on the left. And then a glimpse at the back version, you realize that there's also this white continuing here, a little bit of red, and then we have the gradient showing here as well. But that is not so important as the banner in front. So let's deal with what we have here. Let's go back into Illustrator and make changes to this dark red here. I think this is too dark. So we go back into our gradients, double click here, and then shift the red back to the right. And then now this gradient slider here, bring it back, so that bring this one a little bit this way, so that the white somehow starts from the middle, and then we are good to go. Now for the back version, we can select this one, pick the eyedropper tool, and then just click on this. That will give you a replication of what is supposed to be at the back. but at the back we realize that there's some white here as well. Let's go back to the question. A little bit of white showing at the top here. So it has to do with the angle of your gradient. So let me reposition this so that we can see everything like this. So it has to do with the angle. So I'm going to select that and select the gradient tool here and make changes to the angle. And I'm going to add a white gradient. So as you see the plus sign here, I'm going to click and then drag a white to the extreme end. So you have a little of the white on this side as well. And as much as we have the red, we have the white here as well. So let me interchange these sliders. So something like this will be fine. Now we are left to arrange the banner in front and behind. But before then, let's add our text to what is supposed to be in front. Now the banner in front is a little bit broadened, so not as slim as we have this. So I'm going to pick my curvature tool and broaden it a little bit. So this is my curvature tool. I'm going to click here and broaden it just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. And now you have to make sure that these corners are not showing. So I'm going to zoom in, and then, or we can just click this banner up here and then press the up direction tool twice to take care of that protruding tails. Okay, so it's gone now. Now I pick my pen tool. Make sure I don't have a fill. So fill is none, stroke or outline is none, and then I draw an arc within the banner, and then to take off this I press V or escape. Now I have a path here. I pick my type tool and select type on a path tool, and then I click on the path once, and then I have my default text showing. The text we are supposed to type on the path is, let me check from the logo again, Tawara Global. So we are supposed to use a sans serif font. Sans serif fonts are fonts that don't have extended ends. So I'm going to type in Tawara space global. The space didn't come, and I'm using Myriad Pro, which is a sans serif font. It doesn't have extended ends. Select my selection tool and come to the font size and increase it. We reduce it a bit, and I'm going to use this handle to reposition it to the middle, and I'm going to resize it again and use the handle that shows this arrow to reposition it a little bit again, and then we are almost done. I'm going to select my banner and place it on top of the globe. Select everything and bring it to the middle of our artboard. Now I'm going to select the banner. And I'm going to resize it a little bit by extending the ends. So I hold down Shift and Alt so that I have equal resizing. Next, I'm going to select this one, right click, and then go to Arrange and Send to Back. Now let's have a look at where the banner is positioned. It cuts across South America and then it's just beneath Central Africa. So we are almost on track. We go back. All we need to do is select the banner and then use our move tool to rotate the edges a little bit and use our direction keys to send it up a little bit. And then we don't forget about the text. We do the same thing for the text. And move it up. Should just fit into the banner, that's all. Now before we save, we need to do a little tweaks to the banner at the back, this one. So what I'm going to do is, as I've selected it now, I'm going to go to the gradient panel, and you see that the white is so dominant that the red is very little. Now when you look at the question paper, there's a little red on this side as well. So I'm going to pick my gradient tool here and slide the white a little bit to the center, and then bring the cursor nearer to where the red is. Click once, it creates a duplicate of the red, and then drag that red over to the next side. Let me do that again. We're dragging it gradually so that a gradient of it appears, not fully red. Now the same thing applies to this side. It's not fully red. There's a little bit of white that's trying to compete with it. So I think we are okay. So before I save my file, I'm still going to tweak the banner a little bit by bringing this portion up just a little bit. Let me do Ctrl Z and hold Shift. Select the text as well and use the up arrow on the keyboard. Bring it up a little bit and then use the rotation to bring this place downwards a little bit. I think we are okay. So to save our file now, we can go into File and go into Save As, and we're going to save it as an SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. The name is already here, Global Logo, and then we click on Save. Leave these options per their default and we click OK. Next, we are going to save it as the same file name, but this time in a bitmap format with transparency. Bitmaps can come in various formats like JPEG, TIFF, PNG, and GIF. And this time around we are going to use PNG because it is in this format that we can have a transparency. Now if you try to save it or export it as a bitmap, say we go to export as BMP. If you select BMP and you go ahead and export, you might not have any transparency because a BMP extension does not support transparency. So we are going to select PNG, which supports transparency. With the same file name, we click export, and then we just make sure our background is on transparent, and then we click OK. So that does it for part 1. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, and hope to see you in part 2. Bye.